Uh, Everyone's hopefully had a good feel. We're going to have an awesome session on fast search from a developer's perspective. It's going to be a fast session because it's really hard to cover fast search in 30 minutes. For those who do not know me, my name is Shyam Narayan, and I work as a solutions architect at Kyandra IT in Melbourne. I'm also a collaboration platform VTSP at Microsoft. So what we're going to be doing today basically is looking at the fast search architecture from a developer's perspective. I do another session which covers fast from an infrastructure or IT pros perspective, but this is more what a developer needs to know and what we can do with search. And then we're going to get into a demo where I show how we can actually customize search to build some really awesome applications. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So under the hood, just a quick one. I'm doing another session with Tim Cornwell from Microsoft tomorrow at 1:45, where we're going to be talking more about search from an internet perspective. So quickly, under the hood, the architecture of fast search. Fast search basically hooks on to SharePoint through a hybrid architecture. New in 2010 is the service application framework, and fast search basically uses that architecture to actually hook in to the content sources at the back end and the query sources at the front end. And it basically adds itself onto SharePoint. So when you deploy fast search, you're basically adding on essentially another search farm on top of the existing SharePoint farm. Fast search only works with SharePoint 2010. It does not work with MOS 2007. It requires at least one SharePoint server in the farm. But from a developer's perspective, what Microsoft have done is, during the integration of fast, they looked at it and said, how are we going to target developers to make them, make the transition from SharePoint search through to fast search very seamless. And what they've done is they've basically reused the SDK that you use for SharePoint Server 2010 across into fast. So if you're familiar with SharePoint Server 2010, moving on to fast is pretty much seamless. So from a developer's perspective, we have PCS connectors, which brings in content into SharePoint. You can most probably get to most of the content in your organization using out-of-the-box connectors. If you can't get at anything, you can use BCS from Visual Studio or SharePoint Designer to go get at additional content. On the front end, you have the query object model. So all queries that are fired from the SharePoint Search Center get shunted up to fast, where some cool stuff happens, which I'll show you. But the secret sauce that comes with fast, so this is where fast really starts to shine, is the advanced content processing that it does. Think of this as text analytics or advanced linguistic features that are built into the platform. And we'll start seeing how we can leverage some of those features to really deliver high-end search experiences. Just a quick note, people search still gets federated under the hood to SharePoint. So there is no people search built into fast search. It still relies on SharePoint's people search capability to surface that up. So as a search developer, where are you going to be spending most of your time? This is the stack. I'll walk through the stack quickly. But new in 2010 is this federation object model that came in. And what the federation object model does is basically allow you to basically add another layer of indirection between the UI and the backend search providers. So all web paths in 2010 have been rewritten on top of the federation object model. This is how federation works in SharePoint 2010 from a search perspective. Everything you saw light up on the screen is customizable from a developer's perspective. You can't touch the core index and the SharePoint index. Obviously, that's off limits. But everything else, all the way that's been highlighted in the screen, can be customized. So I'll just quickly walk you through what sort of customizations you would be looking at, and then we'll get into a demo where I'll drill in a bit more deeper. So search web paths. In MOS 2007, web paths were sealed. You could not inherit from them to go create additional experiences. You basically had to do something from scratch. In 2010, they are now unsealed. So they are public web paths. You can inherit from them and go build additional scenarios. So that's a big advantage from a developer's perspective. The federation object model that I spoke about is again extensible. You can go write your own federation runtime and plug that into SharePoint and go query any content source at the back end and bring it into SharePoint. And this is where you start looking at scenarios where you want to start rewriting user queries. So user sends a query from the front end. You want to see who this user is and rewrite the query at the back end. You can do those things with the federation object model. Also the web services. So if you're building an application where you want to get at the search data that SharePoint and Fast is indexed from probably an ASP.NET application or a rich application like WPF, you can do that using the web services. OpenSearch, this is a protocol that SharePoint and Fast supports. You can go write your own federation provider, like I said, expose it to SharePoint through the OpenSearch protocol, and it will manage the runtime for you. And finally, most importantly, the content processing pipeline. So think of content processing pipeline as a series of steps through which the content goes through. So every time the indexers go out, get the content, the crawlers go out, get the content, they run through this pipeline, all the analytics gets applied on it to actually give us some capabilities from a developer's perspective. We'll go in and have a look at that. So as a search developer, what would be the most common scenarios you would expect? And I've looked at a few search applications that I've built, and the three things that stand out is refinements and navigation, so how the user refines his search results, the core search experience, and the search results, so what you do with the search results. So I'm going to walk you through a solution which is customized, running on top of Fast and SharePoint, and show you how we've customized all these three scenarios and what you can do in the future. I'm just going to swap. Okay, this is a standard SharePoint 2010 Search Center. I'm running the Fast Search Center. I'm going to go execute a query from market. Okay, it's come back and it's got these refiners on the left. So this is what I meant by refinements. Okay, with out of the box SharePoint, you get refiners which are called shallow refiners. So they only show you the top 50 count of the top 50 items that meet your search result. But with Fast, they basically give you exact counts. So if there's 1 million records returned from your search, it will actually give you the spread of items across those different properties, so which allows us to start doing something visual. This is okay, this is awesome from out of the box experience, but what I'm talking about building applications that really take this to the next level. So let's go look at a scenario where we have customized Fast. That's again your search center. It's got some love using SharePoint Designer and new CSS thrown on top. I'm going to go execute the same query. Okay. It's just getting warmed up. Give it a minute. It's not that fast, is it? Okay, there we go. So the results have now come back. But you can see now, the refiners on the left, they are all visual. Let me just bring that in a bit. Is it better? Okay. If you see these refiners on the left, they are all visual refiners. So we've used the out-of-the-box refiners, used the exact counts to actually plot them as graphs. We've also brought in location information, so all the content that gets tagged as with geo codes in them, and then plotted them on a Bing map. This is now actually going to go out to Bing and plot them out on the map, so I'm just going to come back to that. But what you can do is, you can actually start building refiners which are very, very intuitive to use. So think about an e-commerce scenario. You want to drill down quickly, and these kind of UI can be built very, very quickly using Fast. That's just a .NET charting web path thrown in there, hooked up to standard refiner, and with few lines of code, you can actually build visualizations. Another really interesting visualization is the slider sort of controls. If you go to auction sites or online commerce sites, you get these sliders where you want to control the ranges, and we can build one of refiners, out of the box refiners, using those properties and some .NET code to actually refine using sliders and ranges. So you can say, give me something that's between $1,000 and $10,000, refine the result set. So these are just examples of what you can do, and this is just impressionistic what you can do. We can take this to the next level, think about what other scenarios. In this case, it's going to go out and plot documents on a map. Let me just clear that result. Just give it a second. It's just going out to a web service and it's going to come back and plot it on a map. So I can use the map to drill down. And you would see internet scenarios where you want to put a store locator or want to say, find me the closest store to where these things are available. Now I can actually refine using a map. Click on that. And it's brought down 12 results. So this is sort of things you can do with the refinements in search. And also a really interesting thing that I wanted to focus on was, out of the box, you have certain refiners for refining by author, refining by company and location. But in a true search-driven application, you want to start modeling the business domain where people want to search by terms that are familiar in the business. So in this case, I've got terms such as business concepts. Okay, saying so these are the business concepts we talk about in our business. Technology. And what I've done here is there's a piece of functionality built into FAST called as entity extraction, which basically looks at the full text of the document, pulls out certain keywords, and passes that to a managed property in SharePoint. And I can then use that managed property to query, to refine, and to do any other sort of stuff I want to do. So this is where it starts getting really interesting. So you can basically get to anything in your document and then have users search, refine, and query on those terms. And the final thing, we are also bringing managed metadata. So I've got managed metadata service running. I've created a term set. I've tagged content coming into SharePoint with the data, and I'm using that as well as refinement. So I can use multi-refinement. So I can say, show me documents that belong to manufacturing and professional services. So just going to go filter out documents which fit in both categories, just allowing me to extend the search experience. Whoa. Okay. Since we've looked at what we can do with the refinements, what I want to focus on now is what do we do with the core search experience? And when I mean the core search experience, I'm basically talking about everything from the time the user types in something into the query box through to the result set being shown to him. And that's very important because you really want him to have a good experience, and that's why people come back to search. Again, we're going to switch over to a demo. I'm going to go execute the same query, and you can see it's starting to prompt me for certain suggestions. So what FAST does is, depending on what I've searched for, it starts actually mining the query logs and automatically adding in suggestions for you. But you as developers can actually control what's getting shown out there. Using PowerShell or the API, you can add in your own terms into the search box. So if you've got, for example, a campaign running, you can actually put what you want people to search on up there first, up at the top. So as people go in and start typing, they get prompted for that. So you can start controlling the search experience from the time they start typing into the search box. I'm going to go execute market opportunity analysis. Okay. It's gone ahead, it executed the search results. Using Office Web Apps, Fast Search delivers in-browser previews of PowerPoint documents and Word documents. But what I wanted to show you over here is something that can only be done with a high-end search platform. Relevance in SharePoint is an out-of-the-box feature which you cannot touch, but with FAST you can start customizing the relevance ranking. Under the hood, they're done through something called as rank profiles. And to do this typically on a high-end search platform, it will require a lot of work. With FAST, this has been made really easy. You can use PowerShell and again the object model to start tweaking these things. So again, think of a scenario. I work for a customer service organization, for example, and I'm searching for something. And I want, based on my user profile, to show documents from a certain division. How do I control that? So what I've done in this case, as I've tagged documents coming in, so for example, I've got the different industries I work with. Out here. Different industries that I work with, and I've said, based on the user profile, I want to sort or show things that are relevant to that user up at the top. So I can now say, show me all results that are from sales. It basically then now swaps the result set and puts everything from sales up at the top. So it's not changing the actual result set, it's only reordering it for you. I can also say, just show me everything that are Word documents. So it's putting Word documents up at the top. So this basically allows me to control what a user sees up at the top. And what a user needs to see up at the top can vary greatly. This is where that flexibility comes in. You can actually rewrite queries behind the scenes to say, if a user from finance comes in, makes a search, show him Excel documents up at the top, because accountants generally like Excel, show them, put that right up at the top. But someone from customer service comes in, put the internal wiki up at the top, because that's where they store and manage their support requests, and that's how they're tracking stuff. Also, another really cool feature with Fast Search, which is only available in Fast and not out of the box SharePoint, is something called as field collapsing, which is basically duplicate detection. You can basically say, run a query and then group all results by author. It will go find all the results set and it will group it by author for you. So very similar to your group by statement in SQL, but now you're doing it over search. And this was one of the big requests I got in MOS 2007, where I said, oh, can we group it by division? And we had to use a lot of JavaScript and a lot of CSS things to actually make it work. But in this case, you get it out of the box. It's highly performant. And this is another feature that you can use to start building really rich experiences. Now, I've shown you how to drill down and how to basically narrow your search result. But what if you want to go sideways? What if I want to make a search for market opportunity analysis? Just go back to the default view. Market opportunity analysis. And then say, show me all other documents which have got content very similar to what's there in the first document. So there is, I spoke about the content processing pipeline. There is a stage in the content processing pipeline where the indexing engine looks into the document and tries to figure out what's being said. So what are the key concepts that are being discussed in that document? It's going to look at it and say, okay, in this document, someone is speaking about SharePoint and workflows. So when I go out there, I've got this button called, a link called as similar results. I can click that, and that's going to broaden my search. So in this case, it's going to go look for market opportunity analysis and lean process across the entire index and find other documents and other items in the index which match this criteria. Anyone use Amazon.com? Yeah. You'd be familiar with the recommendations engine. Whenever I log into my Amazon portal, I only get SharePoint books, bang, right up the front. How is this done? This is done using the user context and something like similar search to say, okay, when Shyam logs in, go find all the books that he has not brought and that belong in SharePoint and .NET and show it to him as recommendations. So these are scenarios that you can now start building with fast without a lot of development effort. I just want you to quickly look at the query string. But the query string actually, most of the search system that you generally deal with are stateless. So it's a lot of information that gets hidden in the query string. In this case, it's actually saying, find me Bishop documentation across the entire index. And it's giving it a value. You as developers can actually tweak these values to see what kind of results you get. Okay. Now I spoke about refining, getting to the result, having a good search experience. But why do you go to a search portal? It is basically to find something or to do something with the result set. So I think you start getting a lot of value with fast search when you can make your search results actionable. Or basically get the user, make him or her to do a search, and then give him or her an opportunity to do what they want straight from that place. And that's when you start really getting your return on investment on a search platform. So in this case, I've executed a search. I've got back market opportunity analysis. And I'll just give you a scenario. My boss comes up to me on a Thursday afternoon and says, okay, Shyam, we're getting into a new client on Monday. Okay, we're going to be talking about market opportunity analysis and Excel services. I want you to go put a team together and start, get a presentation ready so we can actually go demo this to the client and have a good outcome. So I jump on to my search center, execute a search for market opportunity analysis. Okay, I come down to technology, and I refine by Excel services. So now it's given me result sets that meet market opportunity analysis and Excel services. So these are documents where these things are being discussed. Now, I'm going to say, show me all PowerPoint documents up at the top. Okay, it's generating the previews for me. That's good. That's a document I would like to look at. Yep, that's a document I would like to look at. And obviously, I want to put a team together. So this is what the out-of-the-box experience looks like, where you can actually see previews. But we've, in this demo, taken this to the next level. We have actually activated these PowerPoints using jQuery, and you can now start sliding and dragging these PowerPoints into an area and start creating a PowerPoint on the fly. So basically looked at the previews, and now I'm creating a PowerPoint on the fly. And using something called as OpenXML SDK, I can send the result set back to server, create a new PowerPoint, and dump it into my site or have it ready for download. So in this case, I'm just going to go grab a few slides. Yep, that'll do. I'm going to close the preview. It's only, like I said, now I've got a few slides ready for my PowerPoint. I want to start reading about other projects we have done on in the same topic. So I'm going to start dragging the documents. Now this is basically starting to keep a record of what all documents I've searched for. I can save my search. I like the search. I want to save it. I want to come back to it. I can also go find other colleagues who have worked on similar projects before and start adding them to my workspace. And now if I jump into my workspace, it's actually showing me what I searched for. So I've actioned my search result. I can go download a PowerPoint, ready for a customer demo. You can create a workflow which involves the colleagues and the PowerPoint, so we can start collaborating straight away. So I've basically given the user what they want straight away. So they've come in, they've searched, they found what they want, and they've actioned the search result really quickly. So this is what you would be looking at from customizing search. It's always, what's the end result? Now, what are you trying to do? You want to make people more productive, but what do you do to get there? So this is a sort of scenario that you would be looking at. Flick back. Covered that demo. So I just want to quickly recap and have a few minutes for questions and answers. But what we covered today was a really quick whirlwind tour of Fast Search. There is a lot to the platform. It's been built over 10 to 15 years. So there's a lot of history to it. I've tried to cover as much as possible. So just remember the search architecture. This is what trips up a lot of developers and IT pros. It's hybrid. Okay, so it's hybrid architecture, two separate farms hooked together through the service application architecture. And we looked at three common customizations you would do: refinements, the core search experience, and what you would do with your search results. And most of the times I've noticed that this is the areas that you would touch or first touch when you customize search. And as you start getting comfortable with search, you start exploring more opportunities. So any questions and answers? It's customizable in the enterprise search, but things that we have done like graphing and charting, they'll only be accurate in fast because of the exact counts. You can start misleading your users. Yep. 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 The best bets basically is cling on to a keyword. So you basically put in a keyword and say, marketing. Every time people search for marketing, you show them a best bet. But with Fast, you got something called as a visual best bet, where you can actually take an image, a video, or another web page and actually put that as a best bet. So whenever people search for a video, for marketing, boom, you put an image out there saying, that's the best bet, and you can make it clickable. So it just you can make it more interactive. Yep. Mm-hmm. Now you'll have to write something like a custom timer job, which actually moves that across. Okay. If you need people search, yes, you need to deploy the manage metadata and the user profile service, but you don't need to deploy the actual search service application that comes with SharePoint. So all you do is you just deploy fast, create 2 search service applications specific to fast, and just run with that. You don't need to create an out-of-the-box search service application. You just create specific ones for fast. But you just need to ensure that the user profile service and manage metadata service is up and running, so fast can actually go out and index user profiles. Yeah. Yes. So it's basically per server license. So the amount of servers you add to your fast farm, it's basically X times licenses. But fast scales out in a different model compared to the standard SharePoint search, so it's a bit trickier. Yep. So it's only fast. You can't do the ordering and the relevance control in out-of-the-box SharePoint. You can only do it using fast. Basically, you can take any managed property and then order by on it. You can write custom. Yeah, but that's going to start when you start looking at scale and the actual size of content. You will start noticing significant performance issues when you're looking at how we're going to page this result set and how we're going to break this result set down. It starts getting a bit more complicated, and that's when the relevance actually starts breaking down. Because if you order by incorrectly, your relevance is all messed up. So you just need to be very careful when you order by through code. So I think that's it. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.